So for cities that run
Oh,
their,
okay.
that have
I
a
looked
municipal
at them,
water
but I
system,
was like, you can't see anything on this little tiny
if
one.
somebody owes stop service, they don't have to start again for that balance is paid full, right?
Actually, let me get it.
It's the same as it. I'm just wondering if it's different if a city runs it. Denies them this.
Okay, the time is 3 o'clock, so we'll go ahead and start the meeting. First, we will establish a quorum. Clerk, please.
Vice Chair London,
Here.
Commissioner Moore,
Here.
Commissioner Garza,
Here.
Chairman Sol,
Here.
Commissioner Smith,
Here.
Commissioner Klein,
Here.
Commissioner Stewart.
Here.
We have a quorum. First item on the agenda is approval of the agenda. I just want to note that item C, Lot 1, needs to be corrected to Lot 2. Is there any other edits needed to the agenda?
No, sir.
Okay, I'll accept a motion.
Move to approve with the change.
Motion by Commissioner Moore,
Second.
second by Commissioner London. Please call roll.
Dude, just take out the one. That's all you do.
Commissioner Moore,
Yes.
Commissioner Garza,
Yes.
Chairman Sol,
Yes.
Commissioner Smith,
Yes.
Commissioner Klein,
Yes.
Commissioner Stewart,
Yes.
Vice Chair London.
Yes.
Motion passes. Next item on the agenda is approval of the minutes from March 9th, 2022. Are there any changes that need to be made to the minutes? I'll accept a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner London, second by Commissioner Garza. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Garza,
Yes.
Chairman Sol,
Yes.
Commissioner Smith,
You're thinking of the
Yes.
for sale signs.
Commissioner Klein,
This is what we left on.
Commissioner Stewart,
Yes.
Vice Chair London,
Yes.
Commissioner Moore.
Yes.
With that, motion passes. Seeing no old business, we'll move to new business. Item A is the discussion and recommendation regarding a zone change at 1312 Jones, changing a residential single-family district to a residential multifamily. The said zone change to include lots 1 through 12, Block 39, West Lawn subdivisions. Mr. Chancho.
Yes, sir. Thank you. The request for approval of the rezoning of West Lawn Block 39, lots 1 through 12, from RS7 residential single-family to residential multifamily meets the requirements of Chapter 17 of the city's Unified Development Ordinance and is consistent with the city's comprehensive plan. There is no compelling evidence that there would be a threat to the public health, safety, and welfare, which is unique to the proposed request. All adjoining property owners within 100 feet of the proposed rezoning were notified, and there is 0% protest filed.
So there's protest present?
Oh, it's.
If you're going to speak, we're going to have swear you in. Excuse me? Yes, you do.
You will.
Yes, yeah. If you come up to speak, you're going to have to come up to the podium. We're going to have to swear you in, okay? You'll state your name and address, and we'll swear you in. Okay. Mr. Roach, did you want to speak upon this?
Yeah, I just want to disclose that that property does belong to my mother and myself, and I just want to let everybody know that since I am Director of Building Safety, I want everybody to know that I am involved with that property.
All right. Any questions for the applicant? All right. So from the audience, did you want to go ahead and speak upon your protest? Okay. State your name and address, please.
Tamara Mares,
Okay.
1220 Jones.
Raise your right hand. Do you swear and affirm that your statement today will be truthful?
Yes, I do.
Thank you, ma'am. Go ahead.
Thank you. Us living at 1220 Jones, our concerns are, we've been there for years and years, and that lot's been empty, and we have concerns of building a apartment complex there, of maybe crime raising, drug activity. It's been peaceful all these years, and we've had our grandkids there, and everything. And we feel like if it was an empty lot and stayed an empty lot, that we feel safer in that residential area. Not to mention that there's a flooding concern there that we've dealt with for years and years. We've got proof of all the pictures of that lot that they're talking about that completely floods over all the way up to our porch. So that's another concern that would be in that area as well. But our main concern is mostly crime rate going up and us feeling safer in our residential area.
Okay. Rocha, do you want to speak upon this or what the intent is of it?
The only intent there was that was just gonna be rezoned, for sale.
For sale. Okay.
It's been for sale for a year under residential single family. It's just a rezone. There's no potential buyers at the moment.
So there isn't the possibility of it being apartment complex area on that lot? That's what we were understanding, I guess.
And Mr. Chairman, members of the board, certainly, I mean, once the property is sold to obviously a third party, and if it is zoned for multifamily, they certainly could develop as they saw fit that met within our Unified Development Ordinance underneath that criteria. I guess in regards to the flooding concerns, I mean, they would still have to adhere to our stormwater management ordinances that are in place, going from a lot that hasn't been developed to property that is being developed, so they'd have to meet those requirements. And there have been improvements made by the city of Clovis. I do understand.
There has, but it has not helped much.
And so we're able to pump down Dennis Chavez Lake. We do
It's
have
so
a
slow.
permanent soap. And I agree that it does stage up in that area, but with this development from a runoff standpoint, and the fact that they have to control their stormwater, you're not going to increase to an extreme amount the amount of runoff that would currently be added to that area.
Any other comments from the commissioners? Questions? Ma'am, did you want to state anything else?
No, that was just my main concern about, safety in our area. That's what we're really worried about.
Thank you for your time. on
Thank
that.
you.
Sir, did you want to add to that, or?
Yes, please. Same process, sorry. Your name, sir?
Richard Modis, 1220 Jones Street.
Do you swear and affirm that your statement you give today is truthful?
Yes.
Thank you. Go ahead.
Oh, and that lot area is about 3 feet deep when it gets flooded over. And that if you put some complex there, imagine 3 feet of thousands of gallons of water going up, and it's just going to go towards our house more, because that's water's already gone inside our house once before or twice. And developing something higher than that, raising the ground up, it's going to run off 3 feet of a whole section of 2 blocks more towards the house, and it's going to really flood the house over. There's no, I know the city had put a little drainage things, only like a 3-inch pipe, and it takes about a week, 2 weeks to drain out to normally to where people can just drive through there. And it's quite a bit of water. It's unsafe. And I have pictures of a vehicle underwater there. I took a picture of it. It's underwater right in the area. That's how deep it gets.
Anybody have any questions for the gentleman?
Sir, so you live just directly to the
Right
west?
across the street.
Right across the street?
Yes.
Okay.
Is there a fish in the front yard? Guess that's what I'm doing.
Okay. Would you like to state anything else?
No, it's unsafe to build anything there. It's going to raise the water level way too much, and it's really going to flood our house way underwater. Like I said, it gets 3 foot deep there in a 2-block area. If you raise that up, it's just going to really go off towards our house more. In a drainage system, there's no drainage system at all. It takes a week and a half to just drop it down to where a car can pass through the street.
Okay.
That's my concern.
All right.
So
Thank you,
I've got a question
Go
to
ahead.
the city. So it's a responsibility of the builder to mitigate those drainage issues? Is that correct?
They would not be responsible for mitigating the existing drainage issues that are out there. Yes, the city of Clovis does definitely recognize, as I previously mentioned, the flooding in the area. Our Public Works Department has, like I said, installed a pump station in there where we can pump out to the area permanently. It's also as part of our master drainage plan of an area to take a look at and try to make improvements to. But the developer would not be responsible for those existing problems. The developer would be responsible for, like I said, adhering to our stormwater management plan or ordinance that requires them to retain a 25-year 1-hour event, which they'll calculate how much volume of water that is. And so that's what our requirements would be for a new development of the area.
Thank you.
All right. Would you like to say anything else, sir? Sorry.
Yes, sir. One time that pump was on, it was pumping, and that sewer system couldn't handle it, and all the sewer water was coming out. It was flooding, feces, everything was coming out of the road, going towards the public. And I had to call them to turn the pump off. They weren't there, so I wouldn't shut off myself. Because there's toilet paper coming out, there's feces coming out everywhere. It went into it was in the street.
Okay. All right.
And that's unsanitary very much, you know, because I had to go turn off myself because I called. Couldn't reach, it was a Sunday, I believe. I went and shut off myself. It was just boiling over. You couldn't stop it, so I had to shut off myself. So that's another issue also. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions, statement from the public, excuse me, or anything from city staff? No? Nothing else to add? Yes, sir. Mr. Roach.
I would like to say that the property is currently residential single-family, so whether there's houses or multifamily housing on there, still going to be built the same.
Okay.
Just as a reminder, before we vote, Mr. Mares, Mr. and Mrs. Mares, this is not the final word here. It's just recommendation to the commission, city commission. So you'd still have an opportunity if there.
All right. Anything else to add? No? Okay. Well, if there's a motion, I will entertain that.
Motion to approve.
Motion by Commissioner Klein.
Second.
Second by Commissioner London. Roll call, please.
Chairman Stoll,
Yes.
Commissioner Smith,
Yes.
Commissioner Klein,
Yes.
Commissioner Stewart,
No.
Vice Chair London,
Yes.
Commissioner Moore,
Yes.
Commissioner Garza.
Yes.
Okay. With the majority voting in the affirmative, motion passes. Like Commissioner Moore said, this will go to the City Commission, and they have the final say-so. So you can give the same statement there. Okay. All right. Next item on the agenda, item B, is discussion and recommendation regarding a zone change at 2820 East 21st and surrounding area, changing a residential single-family district to a commercial general. The zone change to include a tract of land from the southeast quarter, section 4. Mr. Chancho.
Thank you. The request for approval of the rezoning of a section of a tract of land around 2820 East 21st from RS 170 residential single family to commercial general meets the requirements of Chapter 17 of the city's Unified Development Ordinance and is consistent with the city's comprehensive plan. There is no compelling evidence that there would be a great threat to the public health, safety, and welfare, which is unique to the proposed request. All adjoining property owners within 100 feet of the proposed rezoning were notified, and at this time I have 0% protest filed.
All right, thank you. Any questions, comments from the commissioners? Mr. Chancho? No? Is there any from, oh, excuse me.
I have a question.
Okay, Commissioner, Commissioner Smith?
So, do we have an idea of what the plan is with what we're doing here, with all of this, changing this?
Mr. Leidick is here.
Okay, okay.
So I believe you can speak to it, Mr. Leidick. go ahead and come. Okay.
Mr. Chairman, I'm Chad Leidick. I'm the engineer for the owner, Mr. Chris Ralston.
Okay.
So I thought maybe better swear about that.
Go ahead and state both your names and address one by, I guess we'll start with you and then.
Chad Leidick, 906 Turnback.
Okay. And you as well?
Chris Rolston, 300 Abbey Road.
You swear and affirm that the statement you'll give today is truthful?
Yes, sir.
All right, thank you, sir. Go ahead.
Mr. Chairman, I brought some bigger drawings. Does everybody have what we're going to talk about? Okay. What Mr. Ralston has purchased a piece of property out on East 21st, and if I could have you look at your drawing, it's kind of like an upside-down U that goes on the west, the north, and the east sides of the High Plains Baptist Church. The building on the east that occupies the east side of this property is the old National Guard Armory, which has been vacant and dilapidated for a long period of time. The area just to the west of the High Plains Baptist Church, which is also a part of this property, is kind of a undeveloped storm retention basin. Is basically what it functions now. Catches a lot of storm runoff from the residential areas to the west. What Mr. Ralston would like to do with this particular property is where the old armory is, that particular part he would like to build his main office for his, he's in the construction business. If you don't remember, the Colony Subdivision, which sits just to the north and east of this tract of land we're talking about right now, all of those homes going up out there, that is Mr. Ralston's development. So he would propose to build his main office in the old armory location, also have a warehouse, storage yard for storage of materials for his construction business and other related businesses that he is involved in. The area to the west of High Plains Baptist Church, what we would propose to do in there is first of all clean up that stormwater retention basin, increase the capacity, clean it up, help it function better as a storm retention basin because it does catch considerable runoff, and we would clean all that up. The area just behind that you see is designated as a park area, and what Mr. Ralston would like to do there is develop that into a park area with playground equipment, various things like that for the residents of this subdivision. The area just to the north there where you see the little cul-de-sac, that would sit between the High Plains Baptist Church, the Armory properties, and where the Colony Subdivision currently exists. If you remember a year ago or so, we came in and we master planned and preliminary platted the Colony Subdivision, which is all single-family residential, and it stretches all the way over to where this particular location is. It would join this property on the north side. And so this residential that you see here, he would propose to do some multifamily development, probably duplex type development in this area because it's the only multifamily designated area within this particular part. And like I said, it would be adjacent to his subdivision to the north. And I know there's been a few questions about access, so let me kind of explain what we would propose. As you can see, the area to the west is fully developed, Jonquil Park subdivision, Jonquil East, a lot of that. And the area just to the north, as I just said, is a part of the Colony subdivision. Now, that has all been platted, and it's single-family residential lots as well, which would remain that. But this cul-de-sac you would see would come up through the Colony subdivision, and then it would join what is Putnam Drive, which comes in from the west, and then that roadway continues across Colony subdivision and comes out at various locations on 21st Street as well as over on Humphrey Road. So it would fit in nicely with the preliminary platted area to the north. As you can see, there's only 20 lots in this particular multifamily district, and so that's not generating a considerable amount of traffic or shouldn't present any problems to to getting access in and out of this area. So I'm open to any questions. Mr. Ralston is here as well and could talk to you about any other plans that he has.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Leidig. Any questions from the commissioners? Commissioner Smith, did you still have a question?
No, that kind of got me where I was wanting to go a little bit. I guess I do have a question. With that retention basin, the road into there, can you explain to me that a little bit? That existing road that's there, is that going to be redone in any way? Is that going to be, how's that going to work?
Oh, you're talking about the 40-foot, it's really not a road. I know people use it as such, but it's not a platted roadway. It doesn't have the right-of-way to qualify as a street under the current subdivision regulations. So I would say probably we would not see that being developed as a road. We would fully intend on cleaning up that retention basin and make it function like it needs to be.
So does that road then go away, or is that, I mean, what's there is still going to exist there?
There's currently a 40-foot right-of-way there, and that's it. And that is a part of the old Sheridan Park subdivision, but it has not been developed further to the north as a roadway. Just to the, as you can see there, it exists as a 40-foot right-of-way till you get to Rosewood Drive, and then it ceases.
Yes, so Mr. Chairman, members of the board, and Member Smith, it's just a really nice alley that we have in town, and it's just been, it's been used as a street for several years. So and with obviously no plans to make it a dedicated street.
Okay. And this
All right, thank you.
And this area is planned for an HOA?
Pardon me?
This area is planned for an HOA? Homeowners Association? Because I see that in the plans for who's going to take care of the water basin.
Yes. The city will not be asked to accept any maintenance responsibilities.
And that probably is going to relate to the park itself. The city of Clovis assumes all maintenance responsibility after 1 year on residential subdivisions that have retention basins, and so we will get those added to our maintenance schedule after a year. The park itself would have to be maintained by the developer. The city of Clovis doesn't accept new parks that we're not developing, and so it would be their responsibility to maintain the park. It's happened similar to in College Park at one point in time. That subdivision had a local park that was associated with it, but it's up to the developers.
All right, okay, so thank you. All right. Any other questions from commissioners?
We just felt like, one final comment, since we're talking about the park area, that this being the only multifamily development within this entire development, that a little extra space there for the residents in there, since it'll be a little higher density, would be a nice touch.
Thank you for that. I'm actually a fan of having parks and green spaces for communities. I think it really helps out and adds a bit of flair, so it makes it look friendlier too. All right, thank you. Is there any anyone from the public that would like to come up and speak on this? Yes, sir. Right. Name and address, please.
Daniel Platt, 100 Providence Circle.
And do you swear and affirm that your statement today will be true?
Yes, I do.
Thank you. Go ahead.
I have concerns about the retention pond and existing drainage along 21st there, because when we do get some of the heavy rains and stuff, the retention pond fills up, goes about halfway up into the church parking lot, comes across the road, comes down Dominion, comes down on Fairway along the road that I'm on, and floods my yard, because that lot isn't developed yet either, and they got kind of a small embankment there. Is the city going to take care of the existing drainage problem in that area right now, because that, well, I understand that drainage is supposed to go not over 21st Street, down Dominion. It should go down 21st to Humphreys and then head south, if I'm not mistaken.
Mr. Hallwell, did you want to address that?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. And yes, that is what is supposed to happen. It is supposed to stay on the north side of 21st Street and obviously continue to the east. I know that obviously over the years, the capacity of the ditch, as things have silted in, maintenance of the ditch may need to be performed. Some culverts going underneath those driveways may not have enough capacity, but that's a state highway. And so the city of Clovis doesn't have the ability to go in and make those improvements. We can certainly speak to the NMDOT about that. And honestly, I don't have the full history of why that's even there as far as was a retention pond as it was before. Obviously, before Mr. Ralston has, and Mr. Leidig may have better history I have of that particular location. But it does, depending on what rain event occurs, it does fill up and go on down. Now, with the improvements that they may be making to it, adding to the volume that it can actually store, it may help that situation. And it's something that we can certainly work with them on. By adding that additional volume in there, we'll be able to retain additional, and then maybe make improvements, for example, maybe a weir structure or something to where we control how much water is coming out of the particular basin itself, to where the downstream ditches could be able to handle the flows.
Okay.
Yeah, my concern is that now with this new housing and stuff going on out there, it looks like the culverts that are going in are just dug in just a little bit, set down so trucks can go over, okay? It doesn't look like it matches any flow pattern or anything else. So I'm concerned about that drainage, because if he's gonna build an office in there, he's gonna have that whole lot there by the old armory, that floods quite a bit too because of this. Because it actually floods to the east of my house. It starts coming across the road and it comes all the way up to the church. So I'm really concerned on both sides, and since it comes down Dominion into Providence Circle, since I live on the east side of Providence Circle, on the east side of Dominion, north of Providence Circle, I also get the drainage from the west side of Providence Circle coming my direction too. So I get quite a bit of water down in my area. That's why I'm concerned about getting that water taken care of.
And we'll work with, should the board approve this, we'll definitely work with the engineers to make sure that we're retaining the appropriate amount of water and trying to control it as much as possible. The reality, if you get any rain event that's larger than what things are designed for, similar to all of our storm sewer systems, they become overwhelmed. And so we make decisions based off of normal rain patterns that we receive and try to design based off of that. But for me to sit up here and say it's going to contain it for every rainstorm, that's not true. And our storm sewer systems aren't able to handle some of the rain events that we do receive. They're just simply not designed for it.
Well, I do know that the city really does plan to improve drainage citywide regardless. And then also even the DOT has made that quite the priority as well as they get federal fundings coming down. So, and with the improvement of the basin, like you said, Mr. Hallwald, it's going to probably increase capacity and kind of help mitigate some of that issues is what I'm hearing. So, yeah, it sounds like it doesn't really sound like it'll be too bad of an issue. Actually, the development of having the basin cleaned out and increasing some capacity could actually help out.
Well, that would help out, and also if the city or someone could come down into that vacant lot and punch that berm out, that would also allow the water from from Providence Circle to drain into that lot, and that way it wouldn't pool in that area also.
And so, and I believe that city staff, well, Mr. Hall.
Yeah, I'll have to look into that. Absolutely. I'm not sure what's that particular situation right there. I'd have to take a look at it.
But now they are very much aware of it. So, so thank you for coming and stating that, though. Is there anything else you would like to let us know, though, while you're here?
Not at this time.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Oh, Mr. Mayor. I do have to swear you in, I'm sorry.
Great.
Name and address.
Mike Morris, 213 Wrangler.
Do you swear and affirm that what you say today will be truthful?
Yes, I do.
Thank you. The floor is yours.
Thank you. Appreciate that, Mr. Chairman, members of the Planning and Zoning Commission. As much as it is possible, I am before you not as the mayor, but as a resident that lives on Wrangler Way. I'm at 213, so I think I'm just outside the area that would have received the notice of this hearing. However, there has been conversation on the street and in the neighborhood regarding this, and I think that I would like to state that I'm very excited about the progress being done around town to include the plans that Mr. Ralston has for that area. But I know that the residents along Wrangler Way, Rosewood Drive, and that area would appreciate maybe a little more explanation about how traffic would be managed. And I'll just tell you, I think, all discussions sort of lead to what are we going to do to get traffic from East 21st or New Mexico 523 into this area to relieve pressure. And it may be that the timing of this cul-de-sac that would have the 20 possibly duplexes in it could help with this, because my thought is, because I do live there and I do use that really nice alley that everyone was talking about earlier, if we wind up with that cul-de-sac with potentially 20 duplexes where it looks like they would go, and access to that would be from Putnam, I have a feeling just from seeing traffic, people are going to want to get to that from East 21st. They're going to use that alley, that really nice alleyway, and then drive Wrangler Way that short distance from Rosewood Drive to Putnam and then in. And that's just a lot of added traffic right through there. And then the questions are going to mount up. So my question is maybe about the timing of that versus when the rest of the single-family subdivision would be finished up. But then also the park. Well, I love that idea of putting a park in a subdivision. I have some concerns about that. If that's a park that would be accessible from the public, we have residents that live at the end of Rosewood Drive and Wrangler Way that are going to have potentially visitors of the park parking, in their driveway or in front or around their property, and then accessing the park. So I just kind of wonder what the plans are there. If it's a fenced park that would only be accessible from the subdivision. And then really kind of what I said in the beginning, all roads kind of lead back to how do we get people off of East 21st into this new subdivision. And then I think there are concerns with the traffic flow on East 21st, New Mexico 523, just because of, slowing down and turning, in particular, if you're eastbound, slowing down and turning into even Jonquil East subdivision, and then certainly as this division is built out, I think there would be traffic concerns, safety concerns. So excited about what's going on, but I just know that the residents of the area would appreciate maybe a little more explanation about the plans, if that's okay.
Okay. Mr. Holt or Mr. Leidick, whichever. Mr. Leidick, since you got up, you can go ahead and. Did you want to go ahead? I'm so sorry.
I can answer anytime. Go ahead.
Oh, did you?
Yeah, I would just say from an access management standpoint, of course, the developer, since it is a state highway, they are required to do a traffic impact analysis to see whether or not they're going to, based off of the traffic numbers that are generated, whether or not they're going to have to put in acceleration or deceleration lanes, left turn bays, right turn bays, et cetera. I know that they were working on that for the full build out. I'm not sure where they are with the process of that. And I also can't answer the timing of how they plan to phase that, so I'll defer to Mr. Leidick.
Okay. Now it's your turn.
The traffic impact analysis has been done, and I thought it had been presented to you because it was presented in a meeting.
Okay.
But it's done. And I understand the concerns about traffic around this particular area, but I think it would be short-term at best. Mr. Ralston is completing Unit 1. As you know, you guys have all been out and seen the houses. We're getting started on Unit 2 now, which will be kind of directly to the north of where you see Unit 1. And then because of looping of utilities, water lines, sewer lines, things like that, the natural progression of the subdivision was to be from kind of the southeast corner to the northwest corner, which means that this would have been one of the later areas to be developed, the far west side. But with this land, I mean, with the opportunity that came up for Mr. Ralston to acquire this piece of property to clean up, he can use that storm retention area himself for storm drainage in his subdivision. So the opportunity to acquire that, clean that up, also acquire the National Guard building, make that a functioning property, a nice warehouse, nice office complex for himself. It's just the way the opportunity presented itself. And so now that that's here, yeah, that's not exactly the way we planned it to be, but we need to acquire that now, come up with a development plan. So if he was to go in there and start building these duplexes, then yes, I think it would be a little bit of an impact on Putnam Drive at this particular time because there's no other access that's been built yet from the east. Now there will be. It's all been master planned and platted out, but right now, you're correct. The only way to get in and out of that would be through Putnam. And so I understand the concern. It's just kind of the way this happened. And so, I think that we just have to work around it for a short period of time. As far as access to the park, I know there's some discussion about that. And right now, it's just basically planned to be a residential area. The folks that live in that area park for their use because they're the ones that's going to maintain it and take care of it. And so we had just envisioned there just being foot traffic from the duplex development to the park area. Hadn't really thought about lots of cars pulling up and parking and wanting to use it. I don't think that's the intent of the park. Now, not saying that might happen. Yeah, it could happen, especially if they come in on that little 40-foot nice alley that we've been talking about. But the intent was to provide a park for the residents of this area, seeing as how it's a little higher density to where they would have an area for their kids to play that's immediately adjacent within walking distance of those residents. So that was the intent. And then, like I said, the access issue, just to remind you, might be a little bit of an impact for a while, but opportunities sometimes present themselves in not the most logical order. So that's what's happened.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Leidick. Any other questions, commissioners?
I think we have somebody else.
From the public? Yeah.
Public, yes.
All right. Same thing, yes.
Zane Brothers, 101 Wrangler Way.
All right. Do you swear and affirm what you will state today is truthful?
Yes, I do.
Thank you, sir. Go ahead.
Of course, that little alleyway that we're talking about, I happen to be the residents right there, probably the most affected by that. And I'll tell you, I've lived there for 20 years, and over the last 5 years with this alleyway and the way they've done it and redone it and redone it and redone it over and over because there is so much traffic on it, the traffic has increased right there. And the potential of adding 20 multifamily homes, being basically, 40 families now, potential 2 cars per family, so 80 car more traffic through our area there, that is a concern. Being that I live right there, I've had people come down that alley extremely fast, hit a trailer I had there. I've had people driving into my yard, coming through there, all kinds of incidents in that area, so I do have that concern. I also have an extreme concern on that park area that supposedly we're just going to have foot traffic into. Well, not everybody is in walking distance of this park, so I would feel like they probably are going to drive down there and park, and unless they're planning on putting in a parking area of some kind, they're just going to park in front of my house or in front of another resident's house that's also here. So we do have extreme concern on that, and unless the city is planning on putting a no parking for the park, area in there, I'm not real sure where they're going to park unless they go over and park in the church parking lot. So I would request that if they're going to, that be blocked off with a fence or something to where only you can come in from their new area. Because that really is a concern there for us with that parking. And also, of course, residents there, we've all talked about this quite a bit in that area, and so we do have a lot of different concerns. One of them, Mike mentioned, with the only entrance being in from off of Putnam. I know they said for the short term, but I had heard that this projection was for 10 years of building, that probably, take up to 10 years to finish all of this. So I guess that short term being 10 years time frame, that doesn't seem like short term to me. I would think that the roads need to be put in, to alleviate that traffic sooner, if that's possible. I'm not at all against the development. I think it's a great idea. I'm excited about the housing development being built there. I'm hoping that these duplexes that are going to be built are going to be nice duplexes, not a lower income, because we worry about the property values as well in our areas going down with multifamily being in that area as well. So another concern that was mentioned, one of our neighbors is a police officer, and he was very concerned looking at the layout of emergency vehicles getting in and out with the one entrance off of Putnam and the two circles, and being able to have fire trucks in and out, or the emergency vehicles in and out in case of a issue there. So, I'd like to know, kind of what the feelings are there, and also why there wasn't an idea of putting, since they do own the properties on both sides there, of putting a road coming off of 21st Street up into that directly, rather than depending on, the traffic off of Putnam there from in front of Zia Elementary coming in as well.
Okay, Mr. Leidig.
Yeah, some of his comments I'd like to address real quick. Justin, I want you to notice this is the new big cul-de-sac for the big fire engines. You remember we had that discussion last time? So this is what one of the new big ones look like. So that's sized to take care of all of the fire equipment within the city of Clovis. This cul-de-sac, the design standards for the city of Clovis say that they must be able, the maximum loading is 250 ADT, which means 250 average trips a day for the residents. And so if you have 20 lots, that's 40 families, and there's 4 trips, so that's 160 ADT. So it's well under the design standards that you have for the city of Clovis. So there's nothing in this that exceeds any of your design standards that you have laid out for people to design to. We have the big cul-de-sacs in there for fire protection, and the ADT as well beneath the city limits.
Thank you, Mr. Leidig. Anyone else from the public want to speak? Yes, ma'am. Name and address, please.
Melissa Romero, 101 Rosewood Drive.
Do you swear and affirm that your statements today will be truthful?
Yes, I do.
Thank you, ma'am. Go ahead.
I'm just going to kind of reiterate, I know a lot of this stuff I'm going to talk about today has already been said, but I just kind of want to say it again from my point of view. We do live at 101 Rosewood. We're on the corner, and our driveway kind of backs out into the beautiful alley that we've been talking about. So it does affect us, and we will be living close to the park that they will develop. So again, that does affect us. And so I'd just like to talk, first of all, about the retention basin that you guys talked about. Yes, I feel like right now it's a safety issue, and I'm happy to see that it's going to be taken care of if this goes through. There's standing water. It brings mosquitoes. It brings frogs. It's a safety issue when there's little kids, although, we don't let our kids out there. It could be an issue for little kids out there. There are no plans at this point for that road to be developed. If we're going to add a park there, I feel like that's something that should be one of our priorities because of that little alley road being used so much at this point, and bringing in more attractions would obviously bring in more traffic. Right now, it's a safety issue, I feel. we've had a little traffic, or not a little, we've had a traffic fender benders here and there, but we've had a major accident happen not too long ago down the road. But when cars are coming in, you have to kind of move over and stop and wait and let them come in before you can leave, and it's kind of a mess. So I would hope that that would be developed a little bit more. The park that is being brought into our area, exciting as it is, that parking again is an issue. I would love to take my kids to a park if there wasn't one next to me, and of course I would have to drive. So yeah, they would be parking in our area, in my front yard or in front of my house. So that's an issue. Would there be a parking lot besides at the park? Is my question. If there were a parking lot, then that would be a little bit. That would be better. And then my last question is, you said that there's no voting happening today, so when it does go to vote, will we, as residents, get a copy of what's going to happen? What are the plans? Because we did get just some information on what was going to happen just last night, and it was just kind of last-minute information, so we'd like to know a little bit more if that's possible. I don't know if you do that.
I would think that would be open to the public records, right?
In regards, I mean, there's definitely voting happening today, and so this body will vote on this, but their vote is a recommendation to the city commission. So the city commission takes final action on it, and so that'll happen probably at our next city commission meeting. That's on the 17th, I believe, and so that's when that final action would take place. In between now and then, or what you've heard today, as far as what is being proposed for the development, you can certainly, if the developer doesn't mind sharing with you what they're proposing to do, we can certainly share what has been provided to the city of Clovis. It's public record, and so we're happy to share that with you. But if they make any changes to those plans in between, based off conversations today or not, that'd be up to the developer.
And we'll get notified again of the next meeting as residents?
It would be the 21st. I'm sorry, it wasn't the 7th. It's 21st at 5:15 here in the North Annex. Yes, ma'am.
All right,
So this is the public hearing process.
Well, and we will have to submit a plat. This is just, we haven't done that yet.
Okay.
Yeah, this is a preliminary.
This is just the
plat.
zone change then. So
Yeah.
yes, okay.
So, yeah, yes, sir.
Yeah, I would just want to speak kind of probably more to the general public's questions.
Go ahead.
Really overestimate my ability to build a park, which is great. I love it. I appreciate the confidence. When I say park, literally, I'm talking a walking park. I'm going to have trees, a sidewalk. You know, let me be clear. Could someone drive over to go to the walking park? I mean, we're Americans. We do things like that, right? You know, we drive to go walking, you know. But it's literally meant to be a park where you live in a duplex. Let's get out and go outside because you're in a duplex. You don't have your own dedicated yard in the same way as a single family. So that was kind of the idea. I don't intend to put, a bunch of rides or any of that, just because, quite frankly, from an insurance standpoint, it's quite terrible on my end to have to pay for that. So it's literally, my whole intent is a walking park, where it's like sidewalks, some trees. It's just going to look pretty. In terms of a fence or parking side, it's almost, if people went in, trying to fence them out is pretty hard, right? I mean, I think we all know that. So trying to fence them out is going to be pretty difficult to do. From a parking side, the amount of cost that would go through that would make it not feasible to do, just quite frankly, from a private development side. And not only that, you would use the whole park for parking. So then there's not room for all of it, So, but the literal intent is literally to be a walking park for the residents of this multifamily. Now, does someone choose to use it? I mean, no different than any other park in town, anyone can use it, but that's the intent originally. I just wanted to kind of address that so everyone kind of has an idea, because a park can mean a lot of things. So I just want to clear that up.
And Mr. Chairman, I apologize. This is just a zone change today, and so the city of Clovis has not received an official preliminary plat of what the area would look like. They've shared with us their ideas, but this is only addressing the zone change today. So if the zone change is approved and they start to move forward with the project, they'll have to submit to the city of Clovis the preliminary plat, and we will go through this process again with the preliminary plat.
Anything else? Okay. I'll entertain a motion.
Motion to approve.
Motion by Commissioner Stewart,
Second.
second by Commissioner London. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Smith?
Yes.
Commissioner Klein?
No.
Commissioner Stewart?
No.
Vice Chair London?
Yes.
Commissioner Moore?
Yes.
Commissioner Garza?
Yes.
Commissioner Sol?
Yes. All right, with the well, that was a majority. The majority voting in the affirmative, motion passes, and this will go to City Commission for next meeting. Next item on the agenda, item C, is discussion and recommendation regarding replat of Sunset Acres Lot 2, Block 1. Mr. Chancho.
Thank you, Chairman. The request for approval of a replat of Lot 2, Block 1 of Sunset Acres meets the standards of Chapter 17.65 and Appendix A of the city's Unified Development Ordinance, and is consistent with the city's comprehensive plan. All adjoining property owners within 100 feet of the affected area were notified, with zero responding in protest. There is no compelling evidence that there would be a threat to the public health, safety, and welfare, which is unique to the proposed request.
Thank you. Does commissioners have any question or staff wants to add on to this? Or anyone from the public? Yes, ma'am. Name and address, please.
Judy Morrow, 3324 Cherry Drive.
Do you swear and affirm your statement today will be truthful?
Yes.
Sorry. Go ahead, ma'am.
Okay, so first of all, I want to thank the commission for the vote last time on not rezoning it for multifamily. We have our concerns about this still, but it is a much better plan. And we're willing to compromise. We know that change has to happen. Single family is much more desirable than the multifamily from before. Okay, but we still have our concerns. Sandra Rush wasn't able to be here tonight, and she asked me to voice her concerns. Her property is right next to this land, and it is, first of all, she has a row of trees there that would be very close to what they're proposing, and she's afraid that they will be damaged. Is Clovis still a U.S. tree city? Or was it ever?
Yes, we are.
Okay, so that could be a concern. The other thing is, there's a spigot in the middle of that land, and it is attached to her well, and nobody has addressed that with her. I don't know if that would be the developers that needs to, or what, but she's not been notified what's going to happen there. The other concern was she has low water pressure where she is, which is right across the street from me, and she's asked, she says the city, but I wonder if it's not the water company. Thank you. They say that there's no water pressure there, and there's nothing that can be done about it. So that would be a concern also. Okay. That's all I have.
All right, thank you, ma'am. Okay, anything else to add to this? And considering that it's a discussion and recommendation, is this something we're actually gonna take an action on?
The recommendation would be an action, sir.
Oh, okay. Well, does the commissioners have anything, any other questions, need any clarity to this? Well, with that, we can have a motion.
Move to approve.
Motion by Commissioner London. Second by Commissioner, was it Moore? Was that you or Klein? Oh, Commissioner Klein, I'm so sorry. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Klein?
Yes.
Commissioner Stewart?
Yes.
Vice Chair London?
Yes.
Commissioner Moore?
Yes.
Commissioner Garza?
Yes.
Chairman Sol?
Yes.
Commissioner Smith?
Yes.
With all voting in the affirmative, motion passes. Next item is item D, discussion and recommendations regarding zone change at 112 Diane from a residential single family and residential single family with a mobile home overlay to residential multifamily and mobile home overlay. Zone change to include tract of land in northwest quarter of section 20. Mr. Morris?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This item still needs to be noticed and published, and so it's not ready for recommendation or vote this afternoon. So I think the commission should probably entertain a motion to either remove it from the agenda or table the item until the next agenda, or to the next meeting.
I think a table might be okay. So is there a motion to table until the next scheduled meeting?
So moved.
Motion by Commissioner Moore,
Second.
second by Commissioner Garza. Roll call, please.
Vice Chair London?
Yes.
Commissioner Moore?
Yes.
Commissioner Garza?
Yes.
Chairman Sol?
Yes.
Commissioner Smith?
Yes.
Commissioner Klein?
Yes.
Commissioner Stewart?
Yes.
With all in the affirmative, motion passes. Next item on the agenda is item E, discussion and recommendation regarding an amendment to the sign code chapter 17.45 of the Unified Development Ordinance adopted by the city of Clovis. Text amendment to address temporary signs in section 14.45.080D and section 14.45090E. Mr. Morris.
Thank you again, Mr. Chairman. With your permission, I'd like to approach and pass out hard copies of my proposed amendment.
Please.
So if you recall, the version of the sign code that was approved at this level by the Planning and Zoning Commission, as it related to election signs, we don't actually call them that in here, but that's what we're speaking about today. It allowed individuals and property owners to have one sign per candidate and per issue in their property for a certain period of time. I then engaged the help of an outside attorney to give kind of the ordinance a final review, and there were numerous changes made after it was approved at this level, but before it was adopted by the commission. One such change that was suggested by outside counsel is to remove the per candidate per issue requirement, being that it's content restrictive on its face, right? You have to look at the sign and read it to see whether or not it's prohibited. And so I thought that suggestion was good. However, we inadvertently left the wording that reads 1 at the beginning. So if you look at the top of the page that I've handed out, it reads 1 temporary sign, 0.25 acres. So that was essentially a typo on our part. We didn't necessarily intend to restrict people to 1 temporary election sign. And so that, again, that change happened at the last minute to remove portions, and we just didn't get it completely right. And so if you look at the corresponding, so first of all, subsection D at the top applies to residential zones. Subsection E below applies to commercial, general, and industrial zones. So the proposed change would actually eliminate the requirement for just 1 sign. And so a property owner would be allowed to have as many signs as they please with this proposed change, so long as they complied with the other requirements about removal and posting before an election. We've also, since we've noticed this, this afternoon's hearing for this change, we've received some input from members of the public related to this election cycle, this spring's primaries, that perhaps 30 days prior to the day of election is not enough time to get out your own election signs. And so we've had suggestions to change that number to 30 days before early voting begins, or possibly increase that number to 45 days. So I think that's ripe for discussion, since we've already noticed the proposed change to remove the one sign requirement to the same subsection. If you guys wanted to revisit that 30 days requirement, now would be a good time to do that, and we can do that. And so, again, the proposed changes are highlighted in yellow. Oh, I think I haven't switched.
D is correct, that's in yellow?
Yep.
And then E should be actually
Exactly
E that's
right.
above it.
Yep.
So refer to the middle sections.
The black and white E and the highlighted D are the proposals. I highlighted the wrong section.
This one.
And-
Alright.
And we did think it was important because obviously with the change in state statutes and our general elections for non-municipal elections, now since it's federal candidates, state candidates, school board candidates, Curry County candidates, that one sign, plus you have all your ballot questions or your bond questions, one sign per election cycle is very restrictive, because you could support lots of different people at that particular election.
And again, this is a recommendation, Mr. Chairman. The Planning and Zoning Commission, if they want to put a limit on the number of signs, you can absolutely discuss that. This is just the recommendation from staff.
Thank you. Commissioners?
Yeah, I have something. Back in the day, 15 years ago or so, the city used to give out a packet for elections that had some guidelines in it. I don't think that they were statutory or anything. They were just guidelines, am I correct? And wasn't that 60 days on those?
So, under the old code, we always provided what the old sign ordinance said.
Okay.
And so, yes, it was our ordinance, and I do believe it was 60 days prior to election, maybe prior to the election day.
Okay.
Don't hold me to that. And so the problem became is then between the primary and then the general election, as soon as a candidate won, they said they're advertising. And so there wasn't a requirement for them to take them down and remove those particular signs. And so that's why we introduced to this, obviously as part of our whole sign content neutral revisions that we made. But as Mr. Morris referred to, when we made that change, took out the section that said per candidate, per issue, that really made it restrictive, and we just didn't catch that from an oversight standpoint. And so we thought obviously this would be an attempt to address that, as well as since we've had feedback regarding maybe tying it to early voting, the start of early voting versus actual election day.
When is the early voting process as it relates to election day? I'm not sure.
I think it's typically 30 days prior.
Okay.
So you'd be looking at having, if you did adopt as recommended, you basically, based off of early vote, the start of early voting, you'd have 60 days prior to the election, and then we say 10 days following election day, you'd have to remove them.
Just to clarify, you would say it would read 60 days prior to election day? Could we do that?
I would tie it to, you could either tie it 60 days prior to election day, which would cover early voting, or you could say 30 days prior to the start of early voting. Either way, I think accomplishes the same.
Just from a perspective of not having to change the ordinance again, it may be better just to tie it to the start of early voting in case that number changes, in case it moves to 45 or 60 days out.
I agree with that. I agree with the 30 days before, early voting. I like that one.
And then we weren't recommending a number as far as temporary signs that you could have. That way, like I said, those ballots are gonna get increasingly long with the changes in state statutes, so not knowing what a good number is, that's why we left it open.
Okay. Anything else? Do we want to have any amendments to this? Any suggestions? Nothing more?
So do we have to amend it for the 30 days before?
So,
Early voting, like we have to make an amendment for that because it says 60 days, right? So we can make 30 days prior to early voting.
The way it reads right now, Commissioner, is that it's 30 days prior to the day of an election. And so the amendment would be, I would imagine it would have language that reads 30 days prior to the first day of early voting for an election.
I propose we do that.
Okay. Since this deals with local offices and the city of Clovis doesn't match with the state in November. So 30 days prior for the city of Clovis is going to be quite some time before. Do they get to hold that up all the way until the federal election day? Because this just says election day. Yeah. So if the mayor's running and someone puts up a sign in their yard, they would have 30 days from early election for the city.
correct.
We would have election day for the city at a certain point, but if it says election day here, does it need to be election day to the respective, office, the November, like the federal or the city?
No, election day is election day, whether it's a municipal election or a state and federal election or county election. And so that day would shift, obviously, depending on which election was occurring, but it's equivalent to both of those elections, since we don't need to say it's for the municipal election, or we don't need to say it's for the state or federal. It ties to the day of whatever election is occurring.
Okay. Anything else?
Would you like us to summarize, maybe, what it would read?
Well, I know that Commissioner Smith doesn't have this in front of him.
Correct.
I'm guessing so.
I can go ahead and read it for you, Commissioner Smith. So, under temporary signs in residential districts, the new version would read, temporary signs may be located on the property for a period of 30 days prior to the day of an election, and 30 days prior to the first day of early voting, and no more than 10 days following the election day, involving candidates for a federal, state, or local office, or involves an issue on the ballot of an election within the district where the property is located. Any such sign shall be no larger than 6 square feet and no closer than 5 feet from the curb or public right-of-way. The commercial, general, industrial, and CBD section would read the exact same way, except that the signs of the size, instead of being 6 square feet, would be 32 square feet. And so everything else would read the same way I just read it.
I agree with that.
Is that a motion?
I motion to approve that.
Motion from Commissioner Smith,
Second.
second from Commissioner Stewart. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Stewart?
Yes.
Vice Chair London?
Yes.
Commissioner Moore?
Yes.
Commissioner Garza?
Yes.
Chairman Soul?
Yes.
Commissioner Smith?
Yes.
Commissioner Klein?
Yes.
All voting in the affirmative, motion passes. Seeing no future agenda items, we are for the good of the order. Is there anything else we need to bring up, staff or commissioners? Nothing? Okay. Next meeting time is going to be at 3 p.m. Wednesday, May 11th, here at the North Annex. With that, meeting is adjourned. Thank you.